Folks, Merry Christmas.
For some reason, that part of the movie gets me every time, and I think it's just because it's like the chaos of the holidays and just Clark Griswold's personality. But anyway, let's just get into this review. This was released on November 1st of this year, and I've had it for a couple of weeks now. I wanted to wait until we got a little bit deeper into the holiday season before watching it. I finally did that today, and I've got some thoughts on it, and I just wanted to share those. And I think, more than anything, just kind of answer the question that most people would probably have, which is it worth upgrading? Because a lot of people probably own this in some other format, whether it's DVD, Blu-ray, streaming. And if you have the DVD, I would say that certainly at least getting a Blu-ray would be an upgrade. But I will say that, just generally speaking, right off the top, I think this is the best this movie has ever looked, at least for me. Because I have a 4K Blu-ray player, I just wanted to see, is it really an upgrade? Does it make it a better viewing experience? And I think that it does, and we'll get into some detail about why that is. So as far as the movie itself is concerned, I guess you could say this is a movie review, but at the same time, this is such a classic film, and I feel like most everybody has probably seen this at one point or another. There's not a whole lot else to say at this juncture. I don't know if I would say it's my favorite Christmas film, but probably. I think that's a pretty safe bet. Subjectively, how you define what a great Christmas film is obviously is going to vary from person to person, but I think this just holds up and stands that test of time well, right? I mean, it's still funny all these years later. There are some things about the slapstick comedy that I don't think work quite as good as some other movies. So, I'm thinking recently about Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which I did a review of that when we were at Thanksgiving. I think that's a better holiday movie, just overall. I think the comedy is a little bit better in that. I think the message is a little bit better in that movie. But certainly, a lot of that same stuff is here in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And really the whole cast, sort of the ensemble actors that you have involved with this, just make it a standout classic. So again, I'm not really going to review the movie itself per se. As far as the disc is concerned, I do think the 4K upgrade makes this look better. And so the interesting thing here is I actually just watched this recently a week or two ago on streaming with my family. So I also own this on Vudu, and I've got the HDX version of that. And I did notice some differences. I think the 4K disc has a much richer, much fuller looking picture. So I think the saturation is a little bit better. It doesn't look as flat and kind of washed out as the streaming version that I'm used to watching. There's just something about the color, and I think strategically the way the HDR kind of comes into play here. So for example, the scene where Clark Griswold is looking out of his kitchen window and daydreaming about the time that he's going to get a swimming pool, that's a very bright and vivid scene when compared to the rest of the film, just the colors that are used there, because it's sort of a summertime reflection type of sequence, but the colors do pop there. I think too, the Christmas lights that are in this movie pop better on this disc than they would otherwise. So the first time he finally gets the lights that are on his house, the lights that are not twinkling, when he gets those lit and actually working, it does look really good on here, and you can see the individual lights well. I mean, they're not overwhelmed with the flare that you would get from the bulb and maybe other formats that you might have seen of this movie. There's also a layer of film grain here, which I would assume is natural just given the age of the movie, but it's not distracting at all. It's kind of there, and it gives the movie that cinematic quality that I think a lot of people enjoy. I certainly like that in movies, and here it's not something that's distracting in any way, shape, or form. One thing I want to talk about too is the art, so I'll just put that up on the screen here. I don't particularly love the box art for this. I think there are a lot of other things that they could have gone with. Now, I would not have gone with the kind of the classic Chevy Chase being electrocuted thing that we're used to seeing with Christmas Vacation in its various formats. But I think really kind of a more simple, maybe sort of a frame from that overhead shot of the house once it's lit with all the Christmas lights would have been a really cool cover to have with this. Or maybe even something a little more comedic, like Clark when he's looking into the Christmas tree and trying to see whether or not he hears a squirrel or see what's causing that sound. Something like that would have maybe made it look a little bit more distinctive than it currently does. I mean, when you're looking at this, what you can see in this cover art they've created is that the stockings are on fire, and that never happens in the movie at all, as far as I can remember. Of course, the tree burns up because of what the uncle does when he lights the cigar, but the stockings don't burn up. So that's a little bit of a weird decision. I mean, I guess it's just meant to reflect the chaos that's happening in the Griswold household during the film. But they've also got the cat chewing on the Christmas lights, and then the box with the present from Mr. Shirley, I believe it is, his boss. And if you remember that scene, all the presents there are shaped identically. And I went to IMDb and just looked up some information about this. It was a desk organizer, which I guess was popular in the late 80s. And so it had pins and Post-it notes in that sort of L-shaped horizontal configuration. So a little bit of trivia there. So, it's not a terrible cover, I don't think. It's meant to look like a Christmas card, but I think they could have made something a little bit more minimalistic and cool with that. So I'm thinking about some of the covers from places like Arrow Video and all of that. This is coming from Warner Brothers, so obviously not, a niche label at all. But anyway, the question then remains, should you buy this? So I just pulled this up on Amazon to remind myself. It's currently listed at $19.99. I think it just depends. If you don't currently own this and you have a 4K Blu-ray player, absolutely, I think it's worth it. I think it does look significantly better than streaming. If that's kind of what you've been relying on, I think it's worth it just for that alone. However, if it's not on sale, it's usually $33.99. I'm not sure it's worth that price. And I think part of that is just because this is not a movie that really thrives on an upgraded format in significant ways, I would say. I mean, certainly you can enjoy and appreciate a lot of what this movie and what it is in other formats if you already have those. But if you don't own it already and you've got a 4K Blu-ray player, I do think it's worth that $19.99 price. I just think it's a great movie to have on hand. We watch it every year as part of our family. Now that I have this more kind of upscaled version of it, certainly that's what we're going to default to every time we watch this when the holidays roll around. So anyway, that's my review of the 4K version that was released on November 1st of this year of National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. If you have it, let me know what you think. If I overlooked anything here, let me know that as well. One thing I will say that I did not comment on is the audio track. So I have one of the Roku Stream Bar setups attached to my 4K television, and I've got a 75-inch Hisense 4K TV, which looks great. It's not OLED, so it's not going to have the same deep blacks and sort of that effect that those OLED panels offer. But I will say it did sound really good. So because I don't have a full surround sound system, I didn't really want to comment on that, but I will say I thought overall my Roku Stream Bar, the sound that was offered through that worked well. Anyway, I digress a little bit here. If you've seen it, let me know what you think in the comments below. And as always, thanks so much for watching.